G'day, let's talk about something we all take for granted every single second of every single day. The air. You're breathing it right now, but have you ever stopped to think about what it actually is? Earth's atmosphere isn't just empty space. It's a massive, multi-layered blanket of gases wrapped around our planet like a cosmic doona. It's mostly nitrogen, about 78%, and oxygen, about 21%, with a little bit of argon, carbon dioxide, and a few other trace gases thrown in for good measure. This specific chemical cocktail is what makes our world so wonderfully, beautifully, and uniquely alive. This gaseous envelope is held down by gravity, so it doesn't just float off into the infinite blackness of space. It's our shield, our life support system, and our global air conditioner all rolled into one magnificent package. Well, for starters, it contains the oxygen that almost all life on Earth, including you and me, needs to breathe to survive. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of our thought experiment. How could our atmosphere possibly disappear? It's not like someone can just pull a giant plug out of the sky. Imagine the molecules in our upper atmosphere as tiny, super energetic ping-pong balls, constantly zipping around and bumping into each other. However, the sun's energy can heat up these gas molecules, giving them an extra kick of speed. The sun is constantly spewing out a stream of charged particles that flows through the solar system. Earth has a strong magnetic field, our magnetosphere, which acts like a protective bubble, deflecting most of this solar wind. Perhaps Earth's magnetic field mysteriously weakens or shuts down completely, leaving our atmosphere exposed to the full, unrelenting force of the solar wind. Our protective blue blanket would begin to unravel, thread by thread, molecule by molecule, until there was nothing left. The first thing we'd likely notice is the effect of the thinning air on our own bodies, especially at higher altitudes. Cities like Denver or Mexico City would become uninhabitable first. With fewer molecules to scatter the light, the sky would darken, shifting from its friendly azure to a deep, dark violet blue, and eventually to the stark black of space, even during the day. With less atmosphere, darkness would fall almost instantly. In thinning air, sound would become muffled and strange, and eventually the world would fall into an eerie, profound silence. Our bodies are accustomed to the constant pressure of the air column above us, about 101.3 kilopascals at sea level. If the atmosphere thinned to this point, the liquids on the surface of our bodies, our saliva, the tears in our eyes, the fluid lining our lungs, would begin to boil away. Birds, masters of the sky, would be among the first to suffer. As the air thins, birds would find it harder and harder to stay aloft. The skies would empty of birds, not just because they couldn't breathe, but because the very physics of their existence would cease to function. Many insects breathe through a system of tiny tubes called tracheae that deliver oxygen directly to their cells. Without bees, butterflies, and other flying insects, entire ecosystems would collapse as plants fail to reproduce, leading to widespread famine for herbivores. As the atmosphere leaks away, the concentration of carbon dioxide would plummet, effectively starving the plants. The lush green landscapes of Earth would turn brown and crumble to dust. At about 6% of Earth's current sea level pressure, a pressure similar to that on the surface of Mars, water would boil away at just above freezing temperature. Earth, once the vibrant water world, would become a dry, sterile husk, its great oceans turned into vast, empty basins crusted with salt. With no atmosphere to scatter and absorb some of the energy, temperatures on the sunlit side could easily climb well above the boiling point of water, to 120 degrees Celsius or more. Temperatures would plunge to bone-chilling lows, perhaps down to minus 150 degrees Celsius. This constant, violent cycle of extreme heat and cold would cause rocks to expand and contract, shattering mountains and turning landscapes into fields of fractured stone and dust. The great mountain ranges, like the Himalayas and the Andes, would still stand, but they would be fractured, sharp-edged behemoths under a black sky. The water cycle, evaporation, condensation, precipitation, would cease to exist. The great winds that once swept across continents would die down into an absolute permanent calm. The sky would be a perpetual, star-studded black, even with the sun blazing in it like a malevolent searchlight. The only light would be the harsh, direct glare of the sun, creating sharp, black shadows with no soft edges. The sun and other cosmic sources like exploding stars constantly bombard our solar system with high-energy particles and radiation, including deadly gamma rays and X-rays. Without this protective layer, the surface of the Earth would be sterilized by an invisible rain of lethal energy. Right now, our atmosphere is an amazing meteor incinerator. Every day, tons of space dust and rock, from tiny grains to pebbles the size of a basketball, enter our atmosphere. Without an atmosphere, this protective friction heating would disappear completely. Suddenly, every single piece of space debris, no matter how small, would become a hypervelocity bullet. The surface of the Earth would be relentlessly sandblasted and bombarded. Over thousands and millions of years, the familiar face of our planet, its continents, mountains, and empty ocean basins, would become covered in a blanket of craters, just like the Moon or Mercury. After the air has leaked away, the oceans have boiled into space, and the last vestiges of life have been scoured from the surface. What would Earth be like? It would be a silent, static, and utterly desolate world. The vibrant greens of the forests, the deep blues of the oceans, the brilliant whites of the polar ice caps, all would be replaced by the monotonous gray, brown, and tan of bare rock and dust. Billions of years ago, Mars was a very different place. Evidence strongly suggests it had a thicker atmosphere, liquid water flowing in rivers and pooling in lakes, and a warmer climate. Mars, being smaller than Earth, has weaker gravity. It also lost its global magnetic field early in its history. Without a strong magnetic shield, the relentless solar wind was able to strip away the Martian atmosphere over hundreds of millions of years. Today, the Martian atmosphere is less than 1% as dense as Earth's. Mars is a world of silent pink skies, global dust storms, and vast, dry riverbeds that speak of a watery past. Comparing Earth and Mars is like looking at before and after pictures of atmospheric loss. Earth is the before, a dynamic, thriving world protected by its substantial atmospheric blanket. Mars is the after, a planet that lost its blanket and froze. We've seen that removing our atmosphere would trigger a cascade of catastrophes, each worse than the last. It begins with the simple, terrifying act of not being able to breathe, but it quickly spirals into a sci-fi horror show. The key lesson here is one of profound appreciation. Our atmosphere is not just air. It is the intricate, life-giving engine of our planet. We are creatures of the atmosphere just as much as fish are creatures of the sea. We tend to focus on the ground beneath our feet, but it is the invisible ocean of air above our heads that makes everything we know and love possible. It is the most precious, and perhaps the most fragile, of all our planet's resources. We are not in danger of our atmosphere leaking into space, but we are actively changing its composition. Human activities are altering the delicate balance of gases, particularly by increasing greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide. It is changing the atmosphere's thermal properties, leading to climate change, altered weather patterns, and rising sea levels. Ultimately, thinking about an Earth without air forces us to see our world with new eyes. It encourages us to look up at the blue sky not as an empty void, but as a vast, complex, and beautiful machine that works tirelessly to keep us alive. The story of Earth is the story of its atmosphere. Cherishing and protecting it is not just an environmental issue. It is the most fundamental act of self-preservation for every living thing on this beautiful, blue, and very, very lucky planet. And that's a great moment in science.